everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to our comic preview video. We do this video every single Tuesday. Andy and I sit down, we divide up all the comics, we fight over who's reading what, we read them, and then we do a spoiler-free preview video. This is to get you guys ready for when you go to your comic stores on Wednesday, so you know a little more about the books. We try to tell you about first appearances and sort of major events without telling you every bit of detail. We leave the fun there, but we take away the guesswork. That's almost like a catchphrase, tagline for us. So I'd say this is a pretty medium week. We've had a lot of really big weeks lately. I think we both read like 9 or 10 books. There's still a lot to read. But a lot of issue number 2s, a lot of one-shots, a fair bit of number 1s, but not quite as heavy as we've seen.
Thankfully, it's a little bit, not lighter for a week, but a little easier. We're not, kicking off a big new event or anything.
Yeah, we need that. You need a breath here and there to enjoy what's been set up by all these writers. Because they're under the pressure of marketing departments to be like, no, new characters, more number 1s. So it's nice to have a week like this. Okay, so you guys can already see, here's the first few books we're going to go over, but there are many, many other ones. And even if we don't have something in stock, we like to tell you about it. Like just anything that we think is important in comics this week, we'll try to go over. All right, so Andy, why don't you start us out?
I'll start off with one that is really interesting. This is DC Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration. So a lot of the companies do this for any given month to celebrate different things. They'll do these anthology books, and this one is celebrating Asian culture and heroes and the creators. So this is really cool. This is, like I said, an anthology. There's a bunch of different stories in it, all by Asian writers and artists, as you can see with like the cover with Jim Lee. But I'll highlight a few of the main covers, or the main stories. So the first one, I think, is one of the standout stories in it, is by Mariko Tamaki, with Marcus Toe doing the art, and this is about Cassandra Cain. And what I've always thought was interesting, I'm not sure when it happened, so pre-New 52, Cassandra Cain was basically raised to be an assassin, where her father or her instructor, whatever, never spoke to her. No one around her ever spoke, so she never learned to speak. And because that was just so she could focus on combat, and her father said basically that would just slow you down. It with all this conversation. And post 52, New 52, when they used her again, she tends to speak quite a bit, like not a ton, but they seem to have dropped that story idea. Well, this brings it back in a very interesting way, where it explores kind of why she still doesn't speak, and kind of what that means for her character, and how she uses that to her benefit. It's a really interesting story. I really liked it. The art was awesome. Another one in here was, there is a Connor Hawke story. A lot of people are probably not familiar with Green Arrow's kind of protege, Connor Hawke,
who's been appearing in the new Robin book.
Yes.
Yeah, Connor Hawke is one of the people who's going to be in the fights.
Yeah. So really cool character that probably not a lot of people have read about. He's teamed up with Kenan Kong, the new Superman, who had his own series for a little while.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, it's written by Greg Pak, which, I mean, is killing it at Marvel with the Star Wars books. Let's see, there's also a Damian Wayne story. There is a Katana story. The one that I think a lot of people have probably heard about is the story with Shazam and debuting the brand new character, the Monkey Prince, which is really cool. It's a really fun story introducing this new character that may have more ties to characters you already know than you think.
Interesting.
Maybe he seems like he's maybe existed in this world, but has been laying low quite a bit. he doesn't always look like the Monkey Prince. He does transform, so that's kind of how he may interact with some people.
Sounds like a trickster character.
Yeah, really fun. He can, without just morphing into Monkey Prince, can also morph into other looking characters, which plays a really fun part in this. There's also another new character in this that is kind of tied within his Monkey Prince lore, which, you know, he's kind of a take on the Monkey King with the Journey to the West and a lot of stuff that like Dragon Ball is based off of as a character like this. There's even a moment where he semi goes Super Saiyan, which is crazy, where his brown hair turns blonde and like fiery. I was all in for that. I thought that was really cool. But the other thing that needs to be noted is that this character seems like they're going to be around for quite a bit. It actually says at the end that Monkey Prince will be appearing later this year. It doesn't say in what, it doesn't say how, but it seems cool. So this is the first appearance of a character that's going to go on to be something.
So that's what I was most interested in. I'm glad you told me before the show. Because a lot of people were like, okay, cool, this new character from the past, but why is it going to matter going on? So that's great knowing they do have some sort of future set up.
I'm interested because also the story is kind of a Shazam story. I'm wondering, I know there's a Shazam like miniseries coming out later on this year. I don't know if maybe he'll show up in that, since there seems to be some ties there. Or I would be fine. This character is so interesting, I wouldn't mind seeing them get their own miniseries or whatever. So that is the A cover, which is the Jim Lee cover. And there is a beautiful Art Germ Cassandra Cain variant.
All right, so this week I can finally talk with you guys about Heroes Reborn, knowing that other people have read it. I got to read up to issue 4 in previews that they sent us before issue number 1 even came out. It was just difficult to discuss like 4 issues in when no one had read number 1. So issue number 2 is coming out tomorrow. This one follows along with Hyperion, who is the head of the Squadron Supreme. He is basically a Superman analog sort of character. That's how the Squadron was designed. I'll tell you though, this issue proves without a doubt that Hyperion is the most powerful character in the Marvel Universe, this alternate Marvel Universe. The first 2 pages, I can't say more than this, but he does something in the first 2 pages that is incredibly powerful.
It pretty much hasn't been done by any singular character before.
Correct. No. I mean, right away they want you to know, you know, maybe when he was younger, which I'll be talking about that a little while ago, his power wasn't quite as great, but he is at the peak of his power in this one, and it is just incredible. So, more about the issue. A bunch of his villains have escaped from the negative zone. And this issue, basically, you watch him as he goes up against some of the most powerful heroes and villains in the Marvel Universe, including Ultron, I believe Gladiator is one of them. Finally, it culminates in him having to go up against the Hulk. And that is a very interesting battle because they used to be friends. You know, this is a skewed Marvel Universe. History has been altered. The Avengers never happened. The Squadron Supreme has taken their place, and that's some of the mystery that goes on in this. The only person who remembers is Blade. That does come up in the background. Blade is still in his investigation. Plus, there's a seemingly homeless war veteran, that's the best way I can describe him, who's hanging out around Hyperion's school, because by day he's a school teacher. Who is this veteran? And what happens when Hyperion goes out there? He's like, why are you hanging around the school? Who are you? And somehow this man makes Hyperion feel small. Who could this be? If you think enough about it, you could probably figure it out. So really cool second issue. I've enjoyed the series. I like that the stakes are not world saving. I mean, definitely reality's been changed and bent. But Jason Aaron is having a lot of fun with the series, and I've had a lot of fun reading it. If you were on the fence with the first issue, give the second one a try. This one is a lot more action-packed and a lot more, you know, people die pretty readily in this, and that's because he set up this alternate world, so he can do more than what a lot of Marvel writers can do in the regular Marvel world. So I have a few other Heroes Reborn books I'm going to talk about, but let me show off the variants for number 2. So there is the action figure variant by John Tyler Christopher of the Power Princess. No relation to Wonder Woman whatsoever.
Don't get it confused.
Here is the Bustos Stormbreakers variant. I feel we've had enough of these. We don't really have to explain what the Stormbreakers means anymore. And lastly, here is the Hyperion himself trading card variant. So I'm going to stay on this trajectory. Actually, I got one more to show first. There is a 1 in 25 Magno variant that we're selling in our store for 20 bucks. But look for it in your store if you want a cool Hyperion cover. So I wanted to show off, there's also 2 one-shots coming out this week. The first one is Hyperion and the Imperial Guard. So I'm going to warn you right now, this is the way I'm showing you these is the reading order I did. I suggest you read this one first. This one goes back into Hyperion's past when he is younger. He is leading this team in space called the Imperial Guard. You see the members there. And I'll tell you, what happens to them in this has a lot to do with the negative zone, which becomes a place he makes a prison. You get to see why he makes it a prison and how that happens. You get to see what happens to these characters because I previously mentioned he's capturing Gladiator in this one.
Yeah.
He's apparently no longer his friend, but they were on a team together. So this book actually I found would be much better to read first. So I suggest your reading order is this one first. And then Heroes Reborn #2. The backup story is a Starjammer story that is really cool. It's a different Starjammers group than you've ever seen. So, of course, there is Corsair.
Yeah.
He's always the leader. Scott Summers is on the team, but he doesn't have a visor. He can actually control his eyes.
So this other universe worked out really well for him.
It did. Yeah, it worked out for Cyclops. Havoc's on the team. Oh, yeah. Rocket Raccoon and Groot are on the team. So, which I think is cool. So they're sort of like Starjammers. They're sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So I thought the backup story in it was also really cool. And there is one variant for this by Ben Caldwell. I'm enjoying the one-shots. The one-shots are fun as well. But this one really tied in well with the main story. Then the other one-shot I want to go over real quick is Peter Parker, the Amazing Shutterbug. So in this Marvel Universe's reality, Peter Parker does not get bitten by the spider. You get to see what happens, why he almost gets bitten, but he doesn't get bitten. So he ends up going through college, you know, trying to get a normal job, you know, wondering if he's always, like, he's the opposite of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a special guy. He saves people. He's friendly, neighborhood Spider-Man. Well, this Peter Parker doesn't feel special at all, and you get to see what happens to his life. Uncle Ben, because he doesn't become the wrestler and all, he is not at the place where he would normally be killed. So that doesn't happen. Someone else close to him does die in a different way, though. And in the end, something does happen that kind of gives Peter powers, but it is a real good what-if story. That has just this one variant by Greg Land. So that is your Heroes Reborn roundup for this week. If you're looking for some just fun stuff to read, not sort of, you know, game-changing, world-saving, first appearance grabbing, I do suggest it. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we've talked about it, that it's kind of a part of what's happened to the comic book industry is like, oh, everything needs to either be a first appearance or a world-altering event. And I like that this is kind of going back to, no, read comics because they're fun.
Yes.
And they can still be surprising without it being like, well, how's that going to affect things a year from now? It's just, read these, enjoy these, you know.
I think it's a real reader's event. That's what I'd call it, you know. And I know some people who've asked me, is it for me? And I'm like, nah, you know, you're more like chasing first appearances and stuff that's going to matter. This eventually is going to be over, and the people who enjoyed it will like it, and the people who want it to go on forever, to matter forever, you know, might not like it for that reason. So.
But it's cool story building, especially for Hyperion and characters people may have not read.
Yeah.
So I read a book this week called Silver City. This is from Aftershock. And I didn't really know going into it too much about it. I kind of remember us talking about it on Comics from the Future once I started like researching and everything, I was like, oh yeah, I remember some of these story beats that we talked about. But this is by Olivia Cortero Briggs, and art is by Luca Marilli. And it begins with in a airport, and a kid has headphones in, and they're listening to "Don't Fear the Reaper," which immediately I start thinking of SNL and Will Ferrell with his belly out. But unrelated to this. And then suddenly in the background you see a plane on fire kind of careening towards this airport. We flash to a kind of a warehouse room where all the people who were in the airport are kind of laying on the ground, and they're all getting up, and they're like, what happened? I don't really remember what happened. Come to find out, they're now in Silver City, which is this purgatory-like city that's unlike any version of that I've read before. This one is funny because it's kind of punk. It's kind of like neo-noir. It's got a lot of really interesting characters that our main character that was in this event that is now here can't remember where she's from or what happened to her, and she meets this man who has a very phonetic accent that I can't quite place, but it's written very like, he's got an accent, and he basically starts giving her the lowdown, and he's like, hey, they're going to want you to come to this meeting tomorrow for all of y'all, that they're going to assign you jobs, they're going to do all this, but let me tell you the real truth about this place. So if you'll come with me, I'll show you what the higher-ups don't want you to see. So it begins this adventure of her with this guy going through, and she sees an element I thought was really interesting. So she's looking around, there's people who have like patchwork skin. They're kind of different colors and kind of sewn together. She's like, what's up with that? And he's like, well, here, it's great because, I mean, you can't die again, but also you don't heal. So if you get an arm lopped off, you're just going to have to find one to replace it. So you can tell people who've been there a long time have a lot of pieces, missing parts and everything.
Replace parts.
But it builds upon that of like, this place is a little weird. It's kind of familiar, but it has just enough of a twist. Come to find out, there's this kind of religion that's popped up there about this silver knight that is supposed to help. It sounds very Star Wars, bring balance to the living and the dead. I'm not doing this book justice because I really, really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It really, this first issue sets up a big mythology of what this place is, of some really interesting characters.
Do they go into what gets you out of it? If it's a purgatory?
Not really. This kind of idea.
Too much to get into the first issue.
Yeah. Because the people who are here have been here forever. Like, one guy's talking to the other one, it's like, I've known you for 3 centuries and you'll never change, or something like that. So it's hard to tell, but it's basically like you start over in this new world with new jobs and responsibilities. But there seems to be maybe some...
I died and I still have to work?
Yeah. There's some higher-ups that maybe this whole idea of the Silver City and everything... There's some mystery to why it exists. There's some people in higher power that are living a little bit better of a life, and they may have something to do with it. But I highly recommend this. I didn't know... I mean, the cover doesn't tell you a whole lot or anything. And even, like, flipping through it real fast, it looks like a lot of dialogue, walking through a city. But I think it really shines in the story when you're reading it. It's a meaty story with really cool characters and a premise that I just haven't read before. So I really liked Silver City #1. I'm looking forward to #2. There is a variant. This is the 1 in 15 Lopez variant. You can see in the background, that's our main character. There is a giant statue of this knight that it looks like that's going to play a pretty big part in this, is who it is, and this kind of... One person says they're kind of like this universe's version of Santa Claus. And it's interesting how it's explained, but Really cool. Definitely a recommend.
All right, so I read the first issue of Justice League Last Ride. There's an angry, angsty Superman, the background of this cover. He's just going, arg. So this is the first of two books I read this week by Chip Zdarsky, who is such a talented writer. He can write a Marvel book and a DC book that come out the same week, which he did. I'll be talking about his Marvel book later today. So Zdarsky, he hasn't really written a whole lot of DC that I know of.
Just now getting into it.
So I was really interested to read his take on these characters because he's not just writing one of them. This is the whole Justice League. So this is not a canon story. It is set in just sort of the future. And the Justice League has broken up. That's why it's called Last Ride. You can't have Last Ride without putting the team, we got to get the team back together, get the band back together. So one of the Justice League members, I won't reveal who, has gotten killed a while back due to some decision. I will at least reveal it's nobody on the cover. There you go. So Superman and Batman blame each other. Go figure. They disagree on what happened, and it resulted in the death of one of the Justice League members. I will say some of the mystery to this is they don't reveal that whole story. I think that's going to be told over 7 issues.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Green Lantern Corps comes to Superman, and basically they pull the League together, the remaining members, and they're like, hey, will you guys help us out? This is the Green Lantern Corps. They have finally caught Lobo, and they want to put Lobo on trial, but there's one problem. Lobo has so many enemies that if he can't roam free and fight, basically they don't think they can protect him. So they're like, look, Justice League, will you help us protect Lobo so we can actually give him a trial instead of just all these people that they know are coming who want to do just sort of vigilante, just, you die because of what you did to me. So will the League come back together for this, or won't they? What happened in their past that made it where Batman and Superman have vowed to pretty much never work together again? I enjoyed the issue. Zdarsky, I've always liked his writing, though. I mean, he's just a good writer. He's really versatile. So I think this is a really cool sort of what-if tale about the Justice League. It's going to be a 7-parter, strong first issue. So, yeah, let's see.
It's funny that Zdarsky's writing it because he's such known for humor. And he's worked on darker characters like Daredevil and everything, but he's also got a great sense of humor. So it's funny to see it be like, well, this is about a Justice League member that died, and people are arguing.
Yeah, there's not a lot of joking in this. there really isn't. It's good dialogue, but not a lot of joking. Okay, there is one variant for this. It is the Mendoka variant. And there we have some members of the League.
Cool. Next up, this is Star Wars issue 13. This is our first post War of the Bounty Hunters alpha issue that ties in with War of the Bounty Hunters. It's still a prelude, so it's going to be a prelude for about a month. I think each of the main 4 Star Wars series has a prelude issue tie-in that basically sets up why they're involved in this War of the Bounty Hunters. So this one is our main, it's funny to say our main team, it's like I'm talking about a Justice League, but it's Luke, it's Chewbacca, it's R2, C-3PO, Leia, not Han, because this takes place when he is frozen in carbonite.
Right.
And we know from the Alpha issue that Boba Fett had him, and mild spoilers for it, but most people I think have read it and can figure it out at this point. That Han in Carbonite has gotten stolen from Boba Fett while he was in this arena match for various reasons. I won't spoil that. But this picks up where they've gotten word that there's a contact on Nar Shaddaa, which is like this big city planet that Boba Fett was in the Alpha issue. And so Luke and Chewbacca go to this planet because they have a contact that says, I've got some information about where Han is. That is where we do get a first appearance of a new character, which I think is really cool. I feel like if you introduce a new character in Star Wars, if they are allowed to ride on the Millennium Falcon, that gives them some credibility.
Interesting.
So this is a new character. It is a Wookiee character, which actually has ties to Chewbacca's origin with Han from Solo, which I think is really cool. That, I mean, they're really pulling from everywhere to piece this story together. And this really follows up in kind of the footsteps of Boba Fett from the Alpha issue. So you see a lot of the characters that we saw in that. Kind of the I forgot her species, but the lady who works the front kind of booking counter or whatever when Boba Fett goes to sign up for this arena match. You see that character again. That whole little thing is explored, but a little bit after he's left. And you kind of see, well, when he left, it kind of left the area in some shambles too. So this is really cool. It sets up like we thought, like how every character is going to be involved in this, especially the last page gives kind of and here's your reason for doing this. Here's your target. Here's what you're going to do. So definitely, I think you can still read the Bounty Hunters Alpha issue and then War of the Bounty Hunters #1. I think you're going to be able to read all of that 5-issue series plus the Alpha issue and not miss out on the main crux of the story. But I can imagine at some point Luke is going to show up in that main one. And this is like, do you want to know how that character got here type thing? I don't think it's essential reading, but I think it's good reading. And if you want to really flesh out the entire story, I recommend picking it up. Or if you're already on pull for Star Wars, this is another issue in the main Star Wars run. So you'll be reading this anyways. But really good issue, really fun. We have the variants. This is the Crimson variant, which I have read. Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters #1 that comes out in like a month. And there is a mention of why some of these may be crimson.
Yep, we have been talking about that like ever
I
since
feel like
we
may be the only people talking about that, but it's cool. Then we have this beautiful action figure variant by John Tyler Christopher with everyone's favorite character, the Imperial Dignitary. Ooh, want to break him out and play with him, and all of your Senate playset. We have the Empire Strikes Back variant, the Chris Sprouse variant, and then finally we have the 1 in 25 Dodson variant, which I love. His Luke looks so good. And we're selling that to our customers for $25.
Yeah, if you know, you read the main series but you don't read the preludes and things like that, you end up having to look at all the asterisks, you know, because it's like as seen in, and you're like, dang it, now I need to go find that. Okay, I read Silver Coin #2. This is a horror anthology series. #1 was fairly well received. So what is #2 about? #2 takes place in the 1970s. It starts with a little girl. She's at home watching horror movies before she leaves for summer camp. And all the horror movies that she chooses to watch are ones about kids at summer camp. So
there's a lot of those.
It gives you the sense maybe she's learning. Maybe, you know, she's getting ready. Maybe she'll be the final girl sort of character. Well, things don't quite turn out that way. She goes to summer camp and she doesn't have a great time. In fact, she gets bullied by some of the other kids who are already a clique, who already know each other. I gotta be careful what else I say because I don't want to ruin it. But, you know, we know this all revolves around this silver coin, and that when you find it, it grants you sort of powers, but of course, like a monkey's paw, it might not end up the way you want it to. Mm-hmm. So what happens when this bullied girl, I don't know, runs off in the woods, finds a weird, creepy, evil house? Maybe there's some kind of skin mask in there. Maybe there's a machete, maybe a silver coin. Will she be the final girl or will she be the villain?
I would say that sounds like a slasher starter kit.
So that's the general, you know, premise of issue #2. It has one variant the Lotte variant. Very creepy.
Cool. So, of course, this is one of the ones that, for us, it makes, talking about the show, makes it past issue number 1s and number 2s. We got to talk about Joker number 3. I was thinking earlier, after reading this, I mean, we could do a whole half-hour show just talking about this book.
Yeah.
For one, just the Joker book in general. I mean, I feel like every issue so far has been so packed full of just character and story and new characters and just crazy stuff.
As big as number 1 was, number 2 took everyone by surprise.
Yeah.
With Vengeance and yeah.
Yeah. So this one is interesting because we know that Gordon has been propositioned. Not necessarily, he hasn't, it's up to him if he wants to do it or not.
Right.
But to go to, I believe it's Belize, and hunt down the Joker. That's where he's been seen by this organization. If you read the previous issue, the last page, you know who this organization is, which was another big surprise. But the main lady, I can never pronounce her name. It's like Crisella, something like that. Well, Gordon gets back with her. Let's just say that. And the series isn't over here. So you can kind of guess what his decision is on this. And it is, it's not done lightly. I think that is a big part of this, that we've had 3 issues getting to this moment. And through all of it, we've been with Gordon as he kind of weighs this decision. I mean, this is a really big thing for him to do. He doesn't take it lightly. And I think that is a really strong character point they try to make with this. What's also really interesting with this is it begins with a flashback from Killing Joke, which is a very big point in Gordon's life between him and the Joker. James Tynion, the writer, said from the beginning, you know, this is as much a Gordon book as it is a Joker book, and also kind of what's Gordon's relationship to the Joker, and that could be said is their most defining part.
Yeah, if that's going to tip your decision one way or the
other. Yeah, if you're like, well, maybe sometimes his jokes are funny, but he is a killer. But there was that one time at the amusement park where I was stripped naked and they poked and prodded me, and that is a very interesting scene too, to see that reflected. So a lot of this takes place with some captions, thoughts of Gordon. Let's see, I will say that Vengeance does appear in this. This is the first full appearance in costume of Vengeance, which I feel like is going to be we already thought that she was going to be a big player, but the things that are kind of alluded in this are bigger than that. The other thing is, if you know about the events of A-Day, a lot of that stuff could be brought into question about some of the details about it. You know, we've read stuff in like Suicide Squad, Future, Infinite Frontier. I keep wanting to say Future Perfect. Infinite Frontier, where they showed A-Day, the stuff with Bane, what happened to him, the death of Bane. Yeah. It takes a lot of that stuff and shakes it up, which I think is another, you know, you always kind of want to be surprised by a book, and when you read something, you go, oh, now that completely changes what I think about something. And this book does that over and over and over. So that is really cool. And then I will say also that the Joker does appear in this, probably more than he did in the previous 2 issues. He's, you know, lets his presence be known. But once again, I think this is a book that you got to pick up. I mean, if you're only picking up a few books, I think Joker needs to be one of them. Every issue so far has been just building upon itself in the best way, in just how dense the story is. And yeah, I think however long this series goes on, this will be one that people will point back to and recommend to people. Be like, oh, you're a fan of Joker, you're a fan of Commissioner Gordon. Here's one of their best stories. I think that is this.
And for once, it's a Bat book where Batman isn't like looming over
Yeah.
the book.
There are some Bat family members in this. Of course, you don't have a Gordon book without Barbara being in it, and what her role in this is also really interesting. So it also does have the Punchline backup story in it, like they all do. That is also really fun, with her in prison, and also Bluebird investigating what made Punchline. And there's some revelations in that one too about, was the Joker the thing that tipped her over the edge, or was she kind of already heading that way to begin with? We have some variants. So we have the Gary Frank variant, which is beautiful. We have Joker and Punchline on that one. And then we have the Jason Fabok playing card variant.
I got to hear the spoiler version while Andy was reading the book, and yeah, there are a lot of cool revelations and a lot of theories that Andy developed as he read the book that, if are true, are pretty major and have quite a bit to do even possibly with Vengeance, who I think everyone is just really excited. I mean, that's a character just came out of nowhere. Right away everyone was like, yes,
Something about it clicked. The look, the backstory, and she comes into this with already this built up, like, if you know Bane, you're like, oh, I can only imagine what, her backstory is, and hopefully we get that soon.
Yeah. Okay, so I read X-Corp #1. They're trying to do some different thing with the X books lately. Way of the X #1 came out not long ago. I highly recommend that one. X-Corp is like totally left field from that one. That's what I would say. So what is it? Ever since the X-Men went to Krakoa, they have been taking the Krakoan flowers and turning them into medicine. It's anti-cancer drugs, all kinds of good stuff that they've been selling the rest of the world in return for their country, in return for votes, all the things that the mutants have been denied up until now. Okay, well, the next step of this, according to Professor X, is to take their success and their money and start doing more with it. Start investing it, not just making the drugs, but becoming, if you want to be big, you can be big politically, but you've got to be big on a business level. Money is really what talks. If you're big on a business level, then you can get the votes you want. You can get left alone. So Professor X puts Angel, Warren Worthington III, and Penance, Monet St. Croix, as the two people who are going to start up this thing that is literally called X-Corp. This issue has a lot of dialogue. This is not a fast to read issue. This wasn't one I just turned the pages and I was done. This reads like a TV show. Whoever is writing this, they're writing it like with no abandon for let's have people talk the way they do on TV. And when you do something to do with business, I kind of understand that. You get the sense of business people, they're real slick talking, but they're always backstabbing each other. They're wheeling, they're dealing. All that happens in this one. So there's pretty much two storylines going on. One of the storylines is they need to create a board. Every company, not every company, most big companies have a board, and it's basically the directors who vote on things, who steer the company. Professor X wants it to be 5 people. He seems to have an obsession with 5 people, like the people who bring people back to life from Krakoa. So I will say they gather 2 more of the board members in this issue. I won't reveal who they are. They are mutants. So read it and you'll find out. The other story is Angel is already trying to work with another company on some things. And right off the bat, they try to backstab him. I mean, it becomes violent towards the end. He barely escapes. There is, lastly, revelation. They have their own building. Every company needs a cool building. Well, the first appearance of this building is a little better than the new, like Amazon, whatever place. They've got themselves a floating tower. Ooh. It's really cool artwork, really cool to see. But I will say this book, it is a lot to read. If you're interested in, I guess, less heroics and more what would it be like to have mutant powers and be feared yet revered in the business world, then this book is for you. I think it's a really strange, different premise than I've seen in the other X books, and I don't know if it's for everyone. I'm really trying to explain it so people know, yeah, that sounds like it's for me, or it doesn't sound like it's for me. Because to tell you the truth, by the time the first issue wraps up, I'm like, that's cool. That first issue, it really went full circle. I kind of like it, but I don't really know where they're going to take it. I don't know. It is a mystery. I don't know how they can make this an ongoing series, but sometimes that's the way that some of the best things are. Is you can't imagine how it would go. So that's my review of X-Corp #1. There are some variants for it. Guess who did this variant? That's right. It is the Todd Knock creepy staring at you head variant. Angel with the big blue eyes. And then here is the Scotty Young variant. Always amusing. And then we've got the design variant. It's a 1 in 10. We're selling ours for $10. That's that Krakoan pill that got the whole thing started. And lastly, there is a 1 in 25 Schmidt variant. Angel over a boardroom table. We're selling locally to our customers for $20.
Cool. That's for the X-Men fan who feel like they've read everything. We probably haven't read Business X-Men.
We have a lot of X-Men fans here at the shop. We really do, and some of them know the material so deep, I can't believe it. And it just expands their world.
Yeah.
In a different sort of way.
So here's a book I was really excited to read this week. This is Geiger #2 from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Loved issue #1.
I wanted to read that too.
Yeah, that's one I snatched real fast. So issue #1, we're introduced to this character that is known by many names, but mostly goes by Geiger. And he is a man who is radioactive, and he is in this post-apocalyptic world guarding a fallout shelter that the last he checked, basically when they went in, his family is in there, and he's sworn to basically, I'm going to protect this for as long as I can from these new Mad Max-like raiders and cannibals and all of that. So it's a little bit superhero, it's a little bit sci-fi, it's a little bit adventure. This issue surprised me because it basically begins by telling you, like, hey, you know that Geiger guy the whole first issue was about? To him, but we got this other story to tell you real quick. So it shifts the focus over to a casino in Las Vegas, which we know is a very colorful, very Mad Max. It's hard not to talk about Mad Max in the way that, like, these ideas of
different
gangs that are very themed. So this very themed place now turns into, like, uber themed place. So there's one casino hotel that's, like, medieval based. Well, now that has gone to the nth degree. There is people are wearing, like, Renaissance dresses, and they have a king and everything. But it follows one of the kind of maidens or barkeep that serve some of the royals, which of course they don't treat them very well. And one of them overhears some of the knights that come in from the outside who say, basically, where's the king? We've got something to show. There's this new character that we're introduced to who's kind of like what you would think of as the king's, one of his, like, Knights of the Round Table. He's like one of the higher up knights who's very, got a very distinct costume and everything. And he's like, no, you don't get to go to him. You show it to me. I'll take care of this or whatever. And they basically tell him they found this thing that essentially to them, I mean, they refer to it as the Holy Grail, but it is something that they found that they bartered with some of the cannibals with to get. And apparently it's something that is big. The king would definitely want to know about this. So it kind of sets up that little bit of a MacGuffin, the ring from Lord of the Rings. Like, never see this thing because it's in a bag, but suddenly this turns into kind of our thing that we are looking for. So this barkeep lady who saw it, without going any further, thinks this may be a key to getting out of the situation she's in. So it's interesting that we have this book that heavily like sets up in the first issue. We're following this character who's basically like a post-apocalyptic superhero to switching over. But I think what's cool about it is this is crazy amount of world building.
Yeah, right. That's what I was. World expansion.
I love like it takes. Unfortunately, it does take a writer like Jeff Johns who can take those risks. You know, a lot of people would want to pick up issue 2 and see the further adventures of the character they want, but you have a writer like Jeff Johns that goes, "You've read my previous stuff. You know this is going to be cool. We're going to get back to this.
Buckle in.
But give me an opportunity to expand this world for you." I think this issue is just as good as number 1, but in a very different way. We see kind of why a lot of the people in Las Vegas in this kingdom either don't believe in Geiger or the radioactive man or whatever you want to call him, and others who may know about him and have reasons that they don't want him around. There's a really cool scene where you kind of see what the people who live here think that this guy out here actually is, or what he actually looks like, because he's still kind of like a Bigfoot type myth. But I really like this issue. There's even more to it than I explained. There's some origin stuff. There's so much. There's so much world building that I feel like the next issue we will get back to our main character, but this was a very important detour in setting up the rules and the characters of this world that Jeff Johns is building.
Yeah, the end of the first issue actually showed Vegas.
Yeah.
So I can see how that's, storytelling wise makes a lot of sense. It's sort of like now we're shifting over here.
Yeah. And so
that way it's not just goons running the Geiger.
Right.
You got to build up who are the other people. Otherwise they're just goons.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because Marvel and DC do this all the time. We have a Joker book. That's not Batman, that's Joker. And maybe we're just exploring who the Joker or the, whoever of this world in this one. And I think that's really important. So really, really cool. Geiger does appear in this one, though. I mean, there is action in this as well that is really, really cool. We have the Brian Hitch variant. We have the Asrar variant, which also the two-headed wolf does also appear. And then we have another Gary Frank cover, which is super interesting. So I highly recommend Geiger. I mean, it's one of the independent books I'm most excited to see where it goes and like how big this world can get, because after this issue I'm like, oh, I want to see this place over here, I want to see more about this character, what's the history of this character. And I think that is
we were lucky. We got to read the preview issue of Geiger, so we ordered a lot of the first issue, which is good because that book was a hit, and now we got a lot of people who are along for the ride who didn't miss out. I'm so glad when publishers let us read things early.
I know. We can actually be like, trust us, we read it. It's good.
Yeah, this one's going to connect with people. So, I read Future State Gotham #1. This is an ongoing series. All the Future State stuff has not been forgotten. In fact, I almost feel like DC is making the regular timeline reach Future State way quicker than I thought it would. But I digress. So this book is still set in the Future State timeline. It's not a normal DC timeline. So this is set 20 to 30 years after current DC timeline. I would say, judging by this, it's probably 30 years because next Batman's around. It seems like Bruce Wayne is dead at this point. So the first thing I want to tell everyone about this book, because I don't think this was out there well enough, is the interiors are in black and white. There is no color to them. It's black and white interiors, But I'll tell you, the art, the line work, the usage of shadow and light is really good. It's really good. It really worked. I wasn't looking at it going like, oh, this feels like, they just turned it in too quickly.
Yeah,
It
did feel
felt like
incomplete.
they intended to do it this way, and the art worked real well. It didn't slow me down a bit. There are some parts that I think were even better to see that line work on its own. So that's one thing I just wanted to make clear. I don't want anybody surprised when they open it.
I was surprised when I opened it, and I was like,
so,
oh, what?
And I think the rest of the series is going to be that way. So this first issue had two stories. The first one is a Red Hood story. So when we last saw Red Hood in Future State, he was working for the Magistrate. The Magistrate, of course, has outlawed all masks. It doesn't matter if you're a hero, a villain. You could just be a regular person going to a Halloween July party. If you have a mask on, they don't even arrest you. They shoot to kill. Well, Red Hood is working with them. And Future State left you guessing what's going on with him. This will clear up what his intentions are. Has he really thrown in with them? Is he done with the Bat family? Is he a double agent? Is he doing it for his own reasons? This clears that up in a pretty cool way. Also, there's a secret person he's talking to from the shadows. Somebody you can't even see is talking to him, who I have my theory on who it is, but I guess it's hard to say without revealing it. So I think most readers will go, oh, I think I know who you're talking to in the shadows. But the person relays some info to Red Hood that is so incorrect that it has me totally thinking that he's being played. So a lot of double agent, triple agent, who's playing who stuff going on. I like that. I really like mystery to my comics. So now I don't know who the shadow person is. I don't know what their objectives are. Furthermore, something happens in Gotham that a terrible tragedy happens. And this is not a natural disaster. Somebody made this happen in a very intentional way, and it is being pinned on the next Batman. Let's just say what happened is shaped like a bat symbol, and thousands of people die. Thousands. So now it looks like the next Batman is being cast as a villain. Red Hood certainly thinks it was him and is given even more reason to believe it's him. So a lot of stuff going on. I thought it was a really good read. So that's the A story. That's like the first 3/4 of the book. The last quarter of the book is a standalone story by the legendary Katsuhiro Otomo. I want to make sure you get his name right. It's a name I used to say a lot more back in like the 90s because he's the dude who did Akira.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the writer and artist of Akira does the backup story. Seeing Batman drawn in that style is really cool. And this is a story, there is Future State where Bruce Wayne is Batman, like the stuff that happens 20 years from now. So I think that's when this happens, because this is Bruce Wayne Batman. He's going up against a serial killer who has multiple personalities, who obviously Batman can kind of relate to. The killer is like, well, I have these multiple personalities. I wonder if you do.
Yeah.
So the story was pretty cool, but the art is fantastic. So you might want to pick it up.
That's a huge selling point. I'm surprised that's not plastered all over.
I know. I got to that, and I'm like, this is probably going to overshadow the Red Hood one, even though the Red Hood one is really cool. So that is what is going on in Future State #1, Future State Gotham #1. Here is the variant by James Stokoe.
Cool. Next up, 1 and 2. Wrong one. Just briefly mention Batman Urban Legends #3. It's so hard to keep up with these when we read ahead, and I've read I've read #4, but I haven't read #3. This is #3, and this one is really cool. Nothing earth-shattering about this, but it continues to be really solid, especially speaking of Red Hood. The Red Hood story in here, I think is really, really solid. Batman has a really funny moment. You never see Batman talking to kids too much. It's kind of creepy. It's like he doesn't necessarily know how to do it. But, there's this kid that Red Hood has been watching out for, who's put on his mask and everything. I will say in this, Batman asks what his name is, and the kid says Blue Hood. And I'm like, oh, wait for some collector to be like, first appearance of Blue Hood. This is going to be the next big character. I don't know if that's the case, but it is a really, really cool, very solid story. There's also a Cassandra Cain story in here, because each of these issues kind of has a one-off story that most of the stories in it are ongoing, but it has some one-off stories. There's a Grifter story in this. The Grifter stuff continues to be really cool. But yeah, so Urban Legends #3 continues to be good, and it also has some really cool variant covers. Let's see. So we have the Marquez Batman with Grifter, and we have the Bianchi with Red Hood on it.
I'm going to say one last thing, actually. I'm going back to Future State Gotham #1. Speaking of first appearances and first cameos, so at the end of the Red Hood story, there is a panel, a large panel that shows a lot of Bat family members. And in the background, there's a character I've never seen before. It's just,
oh yeah,
it's not a lot of detail, but it is a character with a sword. It's almost like a big, like Final Fantasy looking
like
sword.
Cloud.
Yeah, it looks like Cloud Sword from Final Fantasy. They have it sheathed, but it is a sword. I don't know who this character is. I showed Andy, we talked about it. It is not Ghostmaker. So if anyone picks this up and you see that last panel and you see that little character in the background who is being claimed to be a Bat family member, might be a cameo of another character we haven't quite seen yet.
It's like so far in the background that the artist couldn't even draw like a face on it. It's like a little oval head type thing, but definitely a big Buster sword.
It still stood out to me, and it irks me that I can't figure out, you know, and I hope it wasn't they just put someone there, because every other person in that panel was an important character.
Yeah. Someone in the comments can be like, you moron, that was blah, blah, blah. He's the biggest character of all time.
I mean, if it's true, that's fine with me. I mean, we have people do that all the time.
So next up we have... Did you go yet?
I have not.
Oh,
you're leapfrogging me. It's because I went back to Future State.
Would you like to go ahead?
I'll continue. We don't want to get thrown off our trajectory. So I read Time Before Time, which is a new Image book, a new ongoing Image book. It has to do with time travel. It's a strange book. That's what I will say. Okay, I've read a lot of time travel things. I've always been a fan of time travel movies, books, everything about it. So this is set in the future where Earth is just kind of a sucky place. Well, this group, this gang called the Syndicate, has a way where people can travel back in time. But when they do it, it's basically to escape the future. Mm-hmm. They're like, we'll relocate you to a better time. All this money, you can never tell anyone. Well, one of their members and a former FBI agent who claims she's not doing this for the FBI end up stealing one of their pods, and they go through time. But they end up in a different time period where there's another gang called the Union. And the Union is the Syndicate's rival gang. So it's a gang rivalry book told not over turf, but over time. Time is the turf. And so they get caught by the Union, and they try to strike a deal as far as, hey, we'll tell you when the Syndicate will be doing this and that if you don't kill us. That's the general premise of issue 1 of this book. So if that sounds cool, check it out. It has one variant to it. But let's get to Superman now.
I'm just eager McBeaver over here wanting to get it out. So this is Superman #31. We are continuing on with where we know we're heading towards Jonathan Kent basically taking over the title with a new #1. And this still, we're getting a lot of hints and stuff to what may be the final fate of Superman. We've said before, you know, maybe he doesn't die. Maybe he has to leave for some reason.
That was my theory.
That's still not super clear, but I think what this issue really focuses on is is Jonathan Kent, can he take up that mantle of Superman when the time comes? And this, we find out that he actually doesn't have a new power, but he's learned to use one of the existing powers in a way that Superman's basically like, how did you do that? And he's like, well, I did this. And he's like, I could never have done that. This is big. And I think it's also interesting because was it in Infinite Frontier where they basically allude to, like, you know, Jonathan Kent is like the big villain. He's like the reason that everything goes bad eventually, or something like that.
He's blamed.
He's blamed. Yeah. There's something that was said in one of those about, like, you know, he can't be allowed to become the new Superman. And I think we're getting a little bit of that, of this kind of power creep of, like, maybe he's almost getting, like, too strong. You know, that his powers are becoming so next level that if something goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong. And I think it's really cool that they're kind of setting that up in this, knowing where it's going to go. So not a, you know, groundbreaking issue with anything. No real new characters appear in this. Some places have it as the first appearance of, what is it, Nightbreed? This first team of these characters. I don't know if there's going to be much of them after this storyline wraps up, but I think the big one is focusing on Jonathan and his coming into what is eventually going to be him as Superman. So we do have a variant for this one. It is the Inhyuk Lee variant, which I just love all this stuff between Jonathan Kent and his dad, because we know that he was raised right, and no matter what happens, there's always going to be that voice in his head that's his dad, right? That's very powerful.
I've been reading the Superman stuff too, because I mean something's about to happen.
Yeah.
Every issue you're like, they're going somewhere big with this, and we just don't know where. We don't want to, you know, tell you at the last minute. We'd rather lead you all up to it. Okay, so I read Chip Zdarsky's second book, this one at Marvel, that comes out tomorrow, Spider-Man Spider Shadow #2. I very much enjoyed #1. I thought #1, it took a minute to get going. It was just sort of like, what happens if Peter Parker doesn't get rid of the Venom symbiote? You know, of course, Reed Richards is warning him. He's like, this thing on you, you shouldn't keep it on you. And it's like, okay, I know this has to be said, but it's all just sort of, you'd understand that's the way it would go. But issue 1 got really going when Aunt May got killed. And Peter kind of snaps. And the climax of issue 1, it's been long enough, I could talk about it. The climax of issue #1 is he kills the Hobgoblin over this. Because the Venom suit is affecting him and affecting his emotions. He can't hold him in check. You know, Peter Parker's always struggled with that a little bit. You know, how many times can he have people hurt those close to him and then still just web them up and put them in prison or let them go to just an asylum or whatever? So with Venom now affecting him, he killed the Hobgoblin. So in this issue, he's past that. You know, it's like once you go over that line, your moral code's gone. At least it is in a lot of people's mind. A lot of people don't think you can go back and regain your innocence. Well, he's definitely of that camp. He does not think you can go back and get your innocence. So, since then, some time has passed. Not a lot of time, but his enemies start realizing this is a new Spider-Man. He is not playing by the rules that he used to. And Kingpin gets word of this, and Kingpin is like, okay, before it was all right for Spider-Man to be messing up my business, but if he's killing people, and let's say he were to kill me, no amount of money is worth that.
Yeah.
So Kingpin sends some enemies after Spider-Man, and let's just say it doesn't go very well for them. And these are some Spider-Man villains.
Yeah.
So a new Sinister Six is going to be born, because the villains are like, we got to get ahead of this. Spider-Man's very powerful. We've got to beat him down. He seems to have grown even more powerful. So a new Sinister Six is put together. It has one new member that I think is very interesting, kind of funny, and you'll just have to see it to believe it. Also, Spider-Man in this state, he is sick of reading bad stories about himself in the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson's. He finally confronts J. Jonah Jameson in a way you've never seen before, in a way that I've always wanted to see, I have to say. So really cool second issue, not a moment of wasted space, very fast, very brutal. I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, it's almost building where, I mean, I think heroes are going to have to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this may turn out to be new Peter Parker Venom versus the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
So if you like number one, or you thought it was good but maybe a little slow at the beginning, number two really speeds.
I was about to say, it sounds like you're saying issue 2 is quite a bit better than number 1.
Yeah, it is very cool, but real dark issue is the way I would describe it. I'm hooked. There is a 1 in 25 Bustos variant that we are selling locally to our customers for $20.
Next up is Fantastic Four issue 32. What's significant about this? This is part 1 of The Bride of Doom. So, of course, this is by Dan Slott and R.B. Silva. And this is funny because I haven't been keeping up. I'm slowly catching up with Fantastic Four. I wasn't sure yet if he, sounds weird to say, has Doom proposed yet to his bride-to-be. Before this issue, apparently not, because something happens in this that sets up the whole wedding story arc. But this, without spoiling too much of it, is very odd, because mostly this focuses on Human Torch and his previous relationships. If you read some of the earlier stories, you know, he was kind of, basically they go to a planet where they have a system that basically says, oh, you're meant to be with this person. And it says, Reed Richards, you're meant to be with Sue Storm.
Right.
And for Johnny Storm, there is a person from this planet. She has wings, named Sky, that they're like, yep, this is who you're meant to be with. And he's like, well, okay, if you say that. And so he's had this ongoing relationship with this new character who came back to Earth with him. So it deals a little bit with that, with his kind of current relationships and some of his former relationships. And based on that, you know, he's Johnny Storm, so he's a little bit of a player.
Yeah.
And this goes so far to a moment where he is hiding under a bed from someone, and it was kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they went there type moment that does play into this this whole Bride of Doom story arc, which I wasn't sure. I knew going into this who the Bride of Doom was, but I've seen a lot of places being like, don't spoil who the Bride of Doom is. And it's like, I thought that was common knowledge by now, but I'm not going to spoil it. But she does, you know, you see a lot about her in this as well. So if you're looking for a jumping on point, I'd say this is good. One, because it just has the number 1 on it for the Bride of Doom storyline. It seems like it's going to be fun. It seems like it's going to be easy to get into. This is not like, you know, Doom is walking down the aisle in this issue. We're still building up to that. Possibly 33 will have that. But it was fun. I really like, since I've been going back and reading this run of Fantastic Four, I found I really like it. There's some just great family moments and funny moments. So we have, this is the Ron Lim variant, which they're still keeping her shrouded and everything. So I'm like, okay, I guess I won't say who it is if people aren't sure about it. We have, of course, the Peach Momoko variant, which is beautiful. I mean, you can just feel the love between that cold iron mask.
I mean, it's obviously Susan Storm. Obviously, I mean.
Oh, maybe that's what he would have liked.
Setting up a deadly love triangle.
Yeah. What's also really interesting in this is Doom makes reference to, hey, I'm going to be gone for a while, I need someone to watch over Latveria while I'm gone because I've got business out in space. And if you are reading Guardians of the Galaxy, you know that Doom is in Guardians of the Galaxy. So it is really tied in. Like, they're keeping up with the continuity, which I think is really cool. Because I was kind of wondering about that too. Be like, how is this going parallel?
How's he gonna be married when he's off in space?
Yep. And then we have this is the 1 in 25 wraparound variant.
Okay, so I read Batman the Detective #2 today. This is a 6-part miniseries by Tom Taylor. I very much enjoyed the first issue. So, in the first issue, Batman has left Gotham. He's headed for Europe. There was a plane crash. There's a group called Equilibrium. Mm-hmm. And their whole deal, this is revealed in the first one, is they have big beef with Batman.
It's a great tagline for it, too.
Big beef with Batman. They are trying to kill everyone Batman has ever saved. They're trying to undo all the good Batman's ever done.
Wow.
I think that is such a good hook. I mean, that is a terrible thing to do to a hero. And in issue 1, they managed to crash a plane full of people. They tricked them to go on the plane. Like, some of them were like, I'm here for this vacation I won. I'm here because my aunt called me. And they crashed the plane, and they killed a bunch of people who Batman had saved. So that's what the villains are up to. And if that's not enough, let me tell you more. So in this issue, Batman is he's hanging out with the new Squire. There's a new Squire character. Of course, he's in England, where Knight and Squire are sort of, in a way, the Batman and Robin. Mm-hmm. Knight got injured last issue. The new Squire is a 14-year-old girl who's pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. And you can get the sense that Batman wants to be like, you shouldn't be doing this. Yeah. He's had all these Robins.
I was about to say, he's one to talk.
Yeah, so Tom Taylor, he definitely goes there when he writes his stuff. So Batman has caught one of the members of Equilibrium, and he tries to get him to talk. Through certain means, Batman figures out that the next place he has to go is France. So this is definitely supposed to be a European,
like a globe
hopping around.
Trotting.
Right. Well, on his way, Batman is contacted by a character. This is a deep Batman cut, but an important character. In fact, the character is so important that he was even in Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, at least by name. That's the most I could say about it. They kind of used the name, but it wasn't quite the same character. Yeah. So this character is able to, because they're so good at tracking and hunting down people, hunt down Batman, even though he wasn't even in his Batman gear, and offers Batman help. He's like, hey, you're coming to France. That's where I'm at. You need help. And he kind of points out how one of Batman's problems is he often wants to do everything on his own. Mm-hmm. So what happens when Equilibrium gets to this new friend of his first? Will he be able to survive them or not? Will Batman be able to save this person who could definitely be a very helpful person in his fight against Equilibrium? That's kind of where the issue goes. And let's see, it was a very good second issue. I'm really enjoying the series. There is a variant, the Kubert variant. I wanted to get the premise out there, though. Like, I had trouble not telling everyone, this is what they're doing. They're, like, killing everyone that Batman ever saved. And there is more of that in this issue, too. It's messed up.
So next up, some more Spider-Man. Feels like there's a lot of Spider-Man this week. This is giant size Amazing Spider-Man King Ransom #1. This is just a one-shot. This is basically a end cap to the current storyline that's been going on in Amazing Spider-Man since issue 61. All the stuff where Spider-Man got a new costume. But it also feels like it wraps up a lot of story that's been going on since the beginning of Nick Spencer's run, especially with Peter Parker's relationship with Boomerang. Boomerang has been starting to kind of be a hero and always being like, oh, we should team up. There's finally a team up with Spider-Man and Boomerang in this, which is really satisfying if you've been reading the series. this has a lot of the characters that have been featured in Nick Spencer's run so far. But I'll say, if you haven't been reading Amazing Spider-Man, this is probably not one you'll want to pick up. This is definitely heavily tied in with everything that's been going on. It's funny they didn't just make this like a giant-sized whatever the next issue of Amazing Spider-Man would be, because that's really who this is intended for. But that being said, the art's really cool. You find out about his suit and if he's going to keep it and what he thinks about it, and stuff about his old suit and the new suit. All that is pretty cool. But yeah, this is definitely a definite read if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, and if you're looking for a place to jump into Amazing Spider-Man, maybe this issue, maybe wait for the next one would be better, but definitely for reading Amazing Spider-Man ongoing, this is one you do need, because it's kind of the end of that main story. We also have a really nice variant for it as well.
All right, so I read Children of the Atom #3. This is one I have been anticipating because the solicitation claims you will get the origin of the Children of the Atom. Are they mutants? Are they not mutants? Do they really have powers? Where do their powers come from? Well, I'm here to tell you that you get answers on some of that, but not all of it. It is not all revealed in this one. By the end of it, you will know for sure if they are mutants or not. But by the end of it, unless I'm missing something, and I just read this, which, I have pretty good reading comprehension, but occasionally I can miss something. I still am not clear on how they have their powers, but I have ideas on it now. More is shown. The only teaser I'll give is something happens with them that involves a spaceship. I'll say that much. So, there's been a lot of speculation on, they're faking her, they just found objects. Maybe some of that is true still. So why they have the powers is still not there. It mainly follows, like the previous issues, they've kind of picked one member to follow. It mainly follows the girl who is Gimmick. You get to see her family life, you get to hear her thoughts, you get to see why would she do this. Why does she, dress up and try to be a mutant, even though they can't get through the Krakoa gates. So all that's done well. That's some of my favorite parts of these, is them focusing on each character and their home life and why they want to be a part of this group. Each one has different reasons, and honestly, each of them have different powers that aren't powers. Like, for instance, she's good at cosplaying, so she obviously is making all of their costumes, and she does live stream stuff where she explains how she does costumes, and that was her life before this. So I think all those little details are really nice. Let's see, am I missing anything? Because I can't reveal any of the things, any of the main things. I think that's about all I can say on this book currently. I'm looking forward to finding out why they have their powers. Like, I feel like, them saying, hey, it's going to be the origin, this is probably like part 1 of the origin. I think part 2 is going to be next. There needs to be more. There's definitely some big things. The story is told in 2 parts that are happening simultaneous, so you get a couple pages of here is the past, and then you get a couple pages of here is the present. And it goes like that, but it's done well. So still a very enjoyable issue. I'm still really intrigued about these characters, and I don't know where they're going to go. Or
this isn't ongoing, isn't it? It's not.
No, it's not. It's a 5-issue series. So we got 2 more issues to finally figure out what's going on. So
did it have variants?
There is a 1 in 25 variant for it, but ours is already gone.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, cool. So, next up, I'm going to just mention Challenge of the Super Sons #2. So this was the series with the younger Jonathan Kent teamed up with Damian, where through some magical circumstances they get a hold of a scroll that basically tells them the next Justice League member who's going to die. It puts their logo on it, and their job is to try to prevent that from happening. So this was, originally a digital first series. So pretty much all the big things already known about what's going to happen in this, but it's really fun if you've kind of missed that younger Jonathan Kent and Damian camaraderie and them kind of picking on each other.
Is there a new vehicle in it again?
I don't believe their new vehicle was in it.
Just
I think maybe so Damian made fun of it so much it maybe got parked in the garage. But this also seems like it's going to turn into a kind of a time-hopping adventure with, some of your favorite DC characters. There's some Vandal Savage in there, some Felix Faust in there. So really fun. Just wanted to mention the issue 2 is out. And it has this really cool variant cover. This Bradshaw variant with Darkseid.
Okay, so here is one that is very interesting that we're going to have to talk about for a little while. This is the latest Bad Idea comic that is coming out on Wednesday. For some reason, so this comic is just $1. We are only selling this to locals while supplies last. They are allowing us retailers who are signed up with Bad Idea to just sell it for 1 day. Now, why would they do this? It creates buzz. It's more of like a preview issue anyway. So it is called Hank Howard Pizza Detective in Caligula's Safe. There are 2 stories in this, though, and honestly, I'm a little more excited about the second one. So let me tell you about Hank Howard first. It is about the way the title sounds. It is a weird little comic. It is about a guy, he's a down-on-his-luck detective. He has been hired by this pizza chain to just kind of take care of any weird things that happen. And I don't mean supernatural. Like this case, for instance, one of the locations, some money goes missing out of the safe. So he investigates. He has no powers. He's literally a detective. Is it the freckly-faced new kid who stole the money? Or is it one of the managers who's been there for ages? Well, he has to investigate, and he uses his hard-boiled wisdom and just sort of harsh interviewing technique to figure out the case.
It's like an assets protection person at a Target.
Yeah, and so by the end, he figures it out. It's very low-stakes, hard-boiled detective work. The story is by Robert Venditti, who is the writer for Tankers, and the art is by David Lapham. So the art is good. It's in black and white. But I enjoyed it, but at the same time, it was so low stakes that you've got to really maybe find humor in how low the stakes are, because it wasn't like jokes flying either. I mean, this guy takes his job pretty seriously. So there were parts that made me laugh a little, but I didn't see it as like a heavy comedy book. Now, I want to talk about the other book in it. I didn't even know this one was going to be in it. I think this is maybe the real book in this, the surprise book in it. So the second half is a preview for a new comic that I assume they're going to launch a full one of, called, what is it called? It is called Save New? Was that the title of it? Let's see. What was it? It was called...
I can find out.
Save Now. It is called Save Now. It was by Matt Kint with art by Thomas Giarello. So, of course, Matt Kint, he's writing ENIAC. He's kind of their, like, superstar writer. Hope you're watching the show, Matt. He did comment on one of our shows a little while ago. This preview was awesome. It is about a superhero team. A lot of them have powers you've heard before. You know, there's a guy who doesn't feel any pain and, you know, stuff like that. But the leader of the team, his name is Saver, okay? S-A-V-E-R. So the book is called Save Now. The main dude, his name is Saver. Now, his power is he can rewind time and redo things over and over again. So his name is sort of like a video game term. Like you can save your state and try the game again. But the problem with him is he can't just go back in time. He has to let everything rewind.
Oh.
So, right. So if he made a bad decision for the team, if he, an hour ago, well, it takes an hour extra of his life to get back to it. And so, from his perspective, he's like, the world watches us, and we fight all these super powered villains. All they see is the end result. So it looks like we did everything just right. They didn't do everything just right. They got killed 10 times. Things went wrong. He just had to keep going back until everything was right. Now that's just a setup. So already I was like, that's an awesome power. I can think of so many ways this story could be cool. That's just a setup. The story then fast forward to way into the future for this team, and they have cornered. I don't know if a lot of people are going to get this book, so I'm going to spoil it a little more.
Yeah.
It's just a preview anyway. They have cornered Saver, their old team member, and they are violently trying to get him to rewind time. And you find out why. The world, something bad has happened. It's an apocalyptic world now. And they're like, Saver, you've got to go back in time and save, we can't let this happen. And like, you guys don't understand this because you're not me. I've gone back. I've gone back a year. I've gone back 10 years, which means he's had to give up that much of his life. And he's like, it can't be done. This is as good as the world will ever be again. We need to deal with this apocalypse.
Wow.
And that's the setup. And it's like, the end. Hopefully there'll be more. So I thought very, very cool. If you have a store you can get this at, I would pick it up. Also on the back, there is a Bad Idea logo. Look at the bottom there. And a bunch of characters I've never seen. So it looks like more cameos from new characters that I've never seen. I'm going to go ahead and open this one. Show you.
The final page.
So, the art on this is black and white. I can't show too much because this officially doesn't release till tomorrow. Oh, did you want me to show?
Oh, I was just thinking. There's a funny last page thing.
They play around a lot in this, but here is the cover for Save Now, and the art. And like I said, this might be more of the book that they were really kind of displaying. Yeah. It's the secret one. The first one's in black and white, which is cool, but this one's fully colored. So just want everybody to know about that.
I hope they go on with that idea in some, mini-series fashion.
I think they're going to. I really do.
But also, yeah, there is on the last page, there is a profile for a character in a very, DC Heroes A to Z, or, it's got, the characters along, here's their height, weight, powers, all that kind of thing for a pretty funny character that I hope that they use in something.
So once again, we are only allowed to sell this book for one day. So come on, stop on by. They say that we can sell it and then we can give it another day. It doesn't have to be like you have to get it that day. So anybody with a poll, we've already considered that. That is a handshake deal that's done. You don't have to show up. We've already considered that a sale. And we're just letting everybody else know this is how stores are supposed to handle it.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty complicated
book. Bad Idea. It's so fun, and I've enjoyed all their books a lot, honestly. But you got to roll with the punches.
You got to play by the rules, and I think it's pretty fresh for a comic book company to try stuff out like this. It's cool.
Yeah. Overall, I found it to be exciting, and I think more than anything, the products have been good.
Yeah.
And that, at the end of the day, matters the most.
Yep. So next up, we have, I kind of lost my place of how I was going through them. We do have Wonder Woman number 772. The main thing I want to mention about this, because, it is a continuation of the story of Wonder Woman, but she's in, this Norse mythology world.
Right. DC version of
it. The DC version of it. So you've got your Thors, and you've got your Odins, you've got all that. Really cool. It seems like it's setting up the last page. Looks like it's gonna be going somewhere really cool. One thing I want to note, because we are trying to be informative on this show as well. So you see on the cover we have Wonder Woman, and then just dark evil version of Wonder Woman. I've seen a few places that people are saying, "Oh, this is the first cover appearance and first appearance of what do they call her?" Wonder Woman's dark side. not Dark Seed, not the new god Darkseid, but her kind of split off personality that's evil. What's funny is a lot of times when places get their information, it's either from solicitations or it's written by people who haven't read the book yet.
Right.
I will say, without spoiling it, that may not be the case. Yes, it is a cool character design. Character does appear like that in it, but I don't think this is going to be like, oh, first appearance of a Wonder Woman character. There's more story than that, and it's not necessarily that. So, just being informative that, if you ever see somewhere they're hiking up the price saying this is the first appearance of a character, maybe that's not the case.
You don't have to buy 10 copies.
You don't have to buy 10 copies, and that's why we're here to inform. But other than that, it's a really cool issue. I've loved, like, I could stay in this Norse mythology all she wants, because I feel like there's so much to explore there with her in this, and how well she also works here. I'm next time be like, okay, now put her in like Egyptian mythology, put her in, whatever, because I think she's such a strong character, and she remains Wonder Woman no matter what the situation is, which is cool. Also, this beautiful variant cover. I love this one.
Okay, now I'm just going to show off a couple reprints. Coming out on Wednesday is Department of Truth, #1, 5th print. I want to make everyone aware there is a secret variant for this. The secret variant is the same that they did with the first one. So this is not the secret variant. This is the regular variant, but it has the different face.
Yep.
So be on the lookout for that.
Cool. Just mention real quick, because how could we not mention it? This is Star Wars High Republic #5. It just continues to be a really solid series in this new timeline that's really cool. Nothing too earth-shattering happens in it. There may be something. There's something that happens on the last page that could easily go one of two ways. When there's kind of like the moment you see on the cover. It's like, oh no, this person. The next issue they could, be like, I'm all good. Or it's like, oh, they're gone for good. It could go either way. I'm not saying that's what happens on it, but that kind of idea. But really cool issue. I think, people who are reading High Republic are really enjoying it. We have so many people at our store reading High Republic. It's great that they're all, people are back in on reading Star Wars, and that's a great one for it.
Put it mildly.
Yeah. We also have the 1 in 25 Chang variant that we're selling for $55. There is some cool Rancor action in this one too.
Also out is Avengers Curse of the Man-Thing, #1, 2nd print, with another version of the Gleason Webhead. For everyone who's collecting all those, just want to let you know this is out on Wednesday. So
yeah, there's a slight color variation to it. It's got a little red in it or something that makes it different. Okay, this is a fun one. This is definitely showing this off because we saw this cover. We thought it was so cool. This is the Comic Book History of Animation Part 5. This is the variant cover for it. The main cover has a really fun Totoro cover, but this one, just seeing this arcade cabinet, and you've got, like, the playable characters are Beast from Beauty and the Beast, Bart Simpson, Gollum, one of the ghosts from Pac-Man, Batman, Sailor Moon, Tron, and Rex from Toy Story. And it's like, how did they manage to get all these on a cover legally? But, this series follows, like it says, the history of animation. But we just love that cover.
That is a cool cover. I want to play that game.
Yeah. Someone's modded that.
So just a couple other noteworthy incentive variants. Silk has a 1 in 25 Lupacino variant that we are selling for $40. We want everybody to know about. And lastly, I wanted to show off, this is the 1 in 10 for Proctor Valley Road #3, which is out on Wednesday. We are selling ours for $15 while supplies last. Do you have any other ones?
And lastly, I have, ending on a great one, This is the second printing of Beta Ray Build #1, which is a cool landscape from that 2-page spread with him and his ship Scuttlebutt. But just thought that was a really, really nice second printing cover.
All right. Again, we have done it. We've made it through all the leagues and leagues of comics to read. So we hope you've enjoyed the show. More than that, we hope that we have informed you. There's just so much to take in every week with comics. I mean, this is what we do for our job. This is what we do for our hobby. So we thought, why not try to help everyone out, carve some time out on Tuesdays to do this. We appreciate everybody who watches the show. Our YouTube channel, we're pushing towards 850 subscribers on our trek to 1,000. That is the goal. So let your friends know that we do this. And on Friday, we'll be doing our show Comics from the Future, where we talk about all the open order variants. We also have the wonderful Megan, who appears with us on that show. She's out running register today. Maybe someday we'll have enough employees where she can come do this one with us again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But I guess that is it. So everyone, have a great day. Happy New Comic Day tomorrow. Those of you who are local, we'll see you. Those of you who are not, we'll just see you next show, or throw us some comments.
Yep.
And some likes. Thank you.